Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of The Growth Show. I am delighted to be joined today with Matthew Campbell-Hill. Matthew has an incredible story and mission at the moment. I thought it's one that we just have to share, especially in this time of Covid-19. Matthew, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. Really good to spend the time.
Oh, great. Maybe we could just kick off with your background and give people a bit more colour to who you are.
Yeah, I've had what to some people looks like quite a mixed background, but I think it makes sense. Essentially, I've been down two streams of work, which has been in the marketing and comms side of the world, and then on the other side was technology. And I've often done a stint in one and then gone on to another, or I run the two side by side at different points in my life. And that started very young. Started as being a computer games tester at points in my teens, and then through work experience and with a company many will hopefully remember called Scion. Made the little handheld organisers, and we're really the market leaders in that at the time. And then I had the opportunity to work in some other areas, or did some time with Oxford University Press, but these are very young, and I had that dual interest in technology, my real inner geek, and then interest in communication and what it means to people, and that was in marketing. And that led me through working with the likes of Daily Telegraph, with the BBC. BBC trained me as a broadcast journalist. He says with a huge pause, obviously not very good. And then with a small magazine group based in the Southwest, but with an international readership, which was good fun. And in between that, I was still popping in and out of technology for a year or so here, or a couple of years, and that included heavy industry, oil and gas, emergency systems, and some of the things like that. I think really what became my defining point in my career actually was, funny enough, I had a spinal injury in my teens playing rugby, and although I could run and things like that, I couldn't really do contact sports afterwards, and I was in pain. But in 2009, unfortunately, that old injury fell apart, and ended up in hospital, and lots of things went wrong, and I was bedridden for quite a long time, and ended up with really essentially me being in a wheelchair, and what could I do? But whilst I was in hospital, it was a case of what can I do now? How the words used to me when they were discharging me, literally they said, "You're kind of done." The words used to myself and my then girlfriend were, "Mourn the life you've lost." And because my then girlfriend, now my wife, was a junior doctor in her first year of being a qualified doctor, they thought it was fine to this particular person. I don't think the system in general, this particular person thought it would be fine that she should look after me for the rest of my life, which obviously didn't sit very well with us. And I quickly remembered you can only play so much Xbox before you really just want to tear your eyes out. So I co-founded an organisation called Mentors Den, CIC, which was Mentors for Disadvantaged Entrepreneurs Network. And we helped set up quite a few businesses with disabled and disadvantaged people, including working in prisons across the Southwest and a bit further up the country. And that was great. It was done pro bono, but it enabled me to keep skilled and keep working with people, which I wanted to do, even though it was a lot of the time from bed. And as I got able to move a bit more, I saw a role being advertised by the National Institute for Health and Care Excellence, and they wanted some non-clinicians with some understanding of the areas that I had some understanding in, to become founding members of a panel called the Medical Technologies Advisory Committee. And that was to look at novel medical devices and review them for their use in the NHS. They had a board of clinicians, and they wanted some external expertise. And actually, it was one of the things where just right time, right place. The technologies they were looking at in the initial few months, some of them had some components of them that I'd worked on with Scion when I was doing work experience with them many years before. So that was great, and I was really fortunate to be able to be a founding member with them. With that panel, it's obviously of international significance. What MTAC says is taken off around the world, and I reviewed about 300 medical devices with them over 9.5 years, and was seconded across to another part of NICE to look at advanced pharmaceuticals. Did about 60 of those, and during that time I really just had a very unique growing this unique skill set by using that, which was really fortunate, and it was something I really enjoyed. Started working with a few medical Royal Colleges providing similar external advice, and the Royal College of Pathologists and the Faculty of General Dental Practice within the Royal College of Surgeons. So it was just, I was building something that didn't exist as a career, I suppose.
Yeah.
And then those turned into board roles, actually, which was helpful, and it was a nice change in my career. There was no way I was going to be able to go back to the standard executive career. I couldn't do the hours physically. I was having to spend about 20 hours a week doing physiotherapy. Now, as you know, I swapped the boring physiotherapy for going back to sport and became a wheelchair athlete for Great Britain. And in 2012 was national champion, and then captain GB to a few World Cup medals. And so that was a great journey as well. And it fitted in that need for me to be doing something properly. If you're going to do it, hit it hard, hit it fast, and literally as a fencer, doing wheelchair fencing. Well, I suppose it was the only legal way I could find to travel the world and hit disabled people with swords. But of course, it meant I hadn't really taken to the idea that there were going to be a few hundred others that were trying to do it to me, and probably better for quite a lot of time. So that was great, and it was a very different idea. And I then took on my first board role with the healthcare regulator, the Medicines and Healthcare Products Regulatory Authority, the MHRA. And non-executive director there, took on a board role with the National Information Board, where I helped, I was the independent board lead on the rollout of apps as medical products across the NHS, and independent board lead on making sure there's public access Wi-Fi across all of the NHS estate. And then took another role at Department of Digital Culture, Media and Sport as non-executive. And it was, I really took to the portfolio world. Really enjoyed it. Obviously, I'm much younger than most in doing that. And that does provide, I think we do recognise we need a different skill set on the board of today than we had 30, 40 years ago, especially with technology, especially with communications practices.
Yeah.
And so I still maintain that, and I worked, I have a few board roles, although not the MHRA one anymore. That was, I did my time there, and I'm working with government across various other things. And in 2018, we're almost getting there. In 2018, I was appointed to the University of Birmingham to the College of Medical and Dental Sciences as the first ever senior fellow in novel technology adoption. And from as far as they're aware and we're aware, there's no other university or medical anywhere has done that, and it's great that Birmingham are doing it. Birmingham have always been at the forefront of medical schools. There may be some snobbery around that it's not Oxford, Cambridge. Actually, they really have. They were the first place to have a woman come through as a medic, come through the medical and dental school. They were the first place to have a woman in charge of the medical school. You can see how they've always really identified and just said, it's not about what anyone else thinks. It's about what the outcome is going to be. Is this going to change things for the better? So really pleased to have taken that on. It's what we've got. Where we've got to is recently. Although I've been doing work with Birmingham and others, and helping. I'm writing a master's in medical technology design and adoption and review for them, which should launch this year. When COVID started, it really took bite here in the UK. There was a lot of feeling around, and what does this mean for us as clinicians out there? And my wife's a clinician. Obviously, I have lots of friends and family clinicians, and we started to see actually how how difficult it is for them in there. We've all seen on the news what's happening with PPE, and it's a really, really difficult time. On Friday the 27th of March, I received a DM on my Twitter at Matt Campbell-Hill. Someone I didn't know said, "Hi, I'm a nurse. My father is an anaesthetist. Can he call you this evening?" Yeah, sure. It's got a problem. Great, no problem. That's essentially what I've been doing for a long time. Lots of consulting, lots of different medical products over the years. Great. Actually, I didn't hear from him. At 7:10, I got a call, 7:10, 7:15. I'll have to check my phone records. I got a call from a consultant anaesthetist at the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital in Birmingham called EJ De Silva. And he said, "Matt, you don't know me. Can I chat to you? There's a box that's been made out in Taiwan. Please can you look at it." So I was looking at this big Perspex box. Big, heavy thing, I could see. I was like, right. He said, when we're doing intubation and extubations, that's when an anaesthetist passes a tube down through your throat, through your larynx, and directly into your lungs. That's a really high-risk time for us. Now, we can all understand that because if you put anything down someone's throat, they're going to gag, they're going to cough, they're going to vomit. It doesn't matter if they are unconscious. Actually, you've got some very basic parts of your brain working. It is a basic action. We also knew that he also explained, and I'd seen at the time that the national guidance was when doing what's called aerosol generating procedures, so anything that causes things to come up, or out of the lungs, you must be in the high level PPE, but also you still must limit the amount of people around you. So even with that, we recognise it's still a significant risk. So he said, this box goes over the top of the patient's head and I can stick my hands through and it'll provide me some security. And I looked at it, I said, EJ, I can see what it does, or what it says it does, but the reality is if we weren't in a pandemic right now, this would never come to market. I just found too many flaws in it. So I went through them, I said, look, it's got sharp edges, it's clear Perspex with sharp edges at eye line. Not a great start. It looks heavy, it looks unwieldy, looks like it can be difficult to move around. I don't know how you're meant to clean it. I don't know how you're meant to store it. And there's no guidance on that. This was so the guy out in Taiwan, I mean, all credit to him, he'd said, this is what I need for me. And so he just made something. He'd done his best, great. But my brain was kicking him going, this isn't ideal. It's not good for him. And also, because it's big and thick and solid, and there's cut holes, it only protects most of that one person, the anaesthetist. Anyone else down the length of the body, they're not protected. And actually, you've still got big open holes where stuff's coming out. So I said, just give me a couple of hours and I'll get back to you. So I went away, and having, I've always enjoyed getting stuck in and designing different routes out, which is, I'm dyslexic, and I should say that, because it's known with dyslexics that we will see different routes through projects, and it's why it's very important to have a mix of neuroatypical with neurotypical people on boards and programs. Within 2 hours, I came back to him and I said to myself, what do I want? What was the problem? Sharp corners, heavy, difficult to clean, difficult to store. None of this works. What would work in the normal world? Okay, fine. So I want lightweight, I want disposable, I want easy to erect, easy to store, and importantly, if I need to change it, easy to do something whilst I'm using it. So I thought, well, let's go with a miniature isolation tent. Let's make a miniature pop-up isolation tent. And what I've made, I think you've seen it, AerosolShield. So go to www.aerosolshield.com, and we designed a little tent, external frame, comes flat packed, takes less than 20 seconds to put up, and it means you can put it over the patient. Now, in intubation, extubation, that's one really difficult part when patients are coming in. But actually, and we've done lots of tests now and we launched the company in a very short time. We'll talk about that, I'm sure, in a second. But my point of this was I just want to protect the staff. It's not about the money. It's not about whatever we could do with it. It's actually, how do we get products out to protect staff? Now, what this product does is if we start with a patient journey, you imagine this shield. So it's a miniature isolation tent which covers the top sixth of the person, but with self-sealing access holes all around it. So you can pass things through and you can put your hands in, you can get stuck in. A patient journey is how a person goes through a healthcare system. And we'll often talk about patient journeys in health tech, and we'll say they can arrive at any point in this journey, or they must start here and they must end here. And we all know the end points. It's where discharge happens, whether it's they discharge themselves or they're discharged, or unfortunately if they pass away. But actually it can start at any point. So it could start out on the road, at home, or it could start 5 months into a load of appointments or about something else. But I give the example of, let's say a patient goes to a GP surgery because they're feeling pretty poorly at the moment. Before they see the GP or the nurse, they collapse. Now that is that's a crash scenario. They're in the surgery. You'd normally have 2 or 3 staff, maybe a bit more. A few more would then come and assess and help that patient start CPR. In a GP surgery, in fact, across most of care, even when things are good, even when we're not in a pandemic, the PPE available to them is really basic. It's a paper mask, not the N95 recommended mask. It's not a filter mask. It's a normal pair of gloves that when you go to see your GP. And it's a white plastic apron, sort of thing that you'll get at a primary school. It's a tear-off white plastic apron. You know, it's cheap, it's easy, it's throwaway, great. So the patient collapses. They bring out their little crash trolley. This 20 seconds put up, or they've already put it up. So my wife's practice now that theirs is already ready to go, and it just goes straight over the patient's head, okay, and tucks in, seals. Great. So now you've iced that problem, because you don't know that patient at that point. You don't know anything about them. So, or you have to assume at least that they're patient, that they've got COVID. So it's called COVID unknown. Then the 3 staff can interact, and you have significantly reduced aerosol spread. Doing CPR, everything you want to do, you've significantly reduced it. So there's 3 people. Then when the ambulance arrives, shield stays in place on the patient. They put them onto the bed, the trolley, they take them out into the ambulance. So I'm now protecting, that one shield is now protecting 5 members of NHS staff. And I've significantly improved the protection of inside the ambulance because of that person's coughing, spluttering, whatever's happening. Great. Ambulance gets to A&E. Within half an hour to an hour, it's very easy to see how any one patient coming in an emergency situation would become within 6 feet of at least 20 staff, not just clinicians, remember, but all NHS staff, and they're all required, from porters, healthcare assistants, consultants. We need them all. So suddenly that one device has now provided significant extra protection to 25 staff. That patient is then going to go through a journey through that hospital. They could be going to an operating theatre. They could be going to other wards. They could be going to X-ray. All of this stuff. Again, it can go through X-ray. It can go through CT. It can go through MRI because it was designed with that in mind. For me to say, is it possible they come into a 6 foot contact or closer with 100 NHS staff in a large hospital? Yeah, in 24 hours, very easy. So suddenly this one product significantly reduces spread to all of those people. And the important thing about that is when we're talking about PPE and when we're talking about how destructive this virus is and how contagious it is. Out in the real world, the contagion is based around so if one person can infect 5, that's fine. But that person isn't in a crisis at that point and coughing big things up, and it's those big globs. That's the high viral load. So actually, it is getting to the point where it's really difficult. What we did as well on top of that is that because we knew the team I set up within sort of 12 hours of having got this first image, and I should go back to that really, is how we did it. I went back to it about 9:30, showed him the image, showed my wife already. Is that what you want? This is what it'll do. Yes, that's great. By 11:30 that night, so we're a few hours in from when I first told about the issue. I had a friend who's a fine jewellery maker down in Cornwall called Richard Baker Stevens. Has a lovely little shop called Canary Blue in Truro, but he can make things. So it was about 11 p.m. or something. He said, "Richard, can you make me this, please? Can you make it whatever we've got?" And we try and work it out, and he took some clear matting from that his baby uses to sit on and eat on, and he manufactured a basic proof of concept. So it was 11:30 or midnight, sent it back to me and showed me the photos. Great, showed that to the clinician. Yes, this is looking really good, this works. Next morning, about 9 a.m., I'd set up a team of experts in medtech. So regulatory expert colleague, Richard Williams, and also at Birmingham University. And then David Juggins, who's the CCO of a company called Hugo Technology, which is one of the major medical tech servicing companies in the UK. And he brought in someone else he knew very well called Mark Reeves. And then I had my clinicians as well. And we all agreed, this is not about money, this is about saving our friends and family. This makes sense. This is a barrier, okay? This is a miniature isolation tent, and we know this works. We need to scale up on manufacturing as soon as possible, but we need to get this tested more. Great. So by 11:30, the first clinician, EJ, had called me. I'd never met him, but I'd shown him, obviously knew what to do. He had gone out and he'd taken apart some bits of a friend's pram, including the big rain cover, and we'd shown him the cover. So he then, with the promise of replacing, I'm sure. So he then had tried the second proof of concept, and it worked for him. Brilliant. By about 3:30, having hit LinkedIn hard, and I think you saw it at the time, he's saying, "I need help with this, and this." We had found a brilliant company called Airqui. Now, if you go onto Airqui's site, the first thing you go, well, they make bouncy castles. I'm not sure that's going to help. Well, actually, yeah, they do. But go down to go along their tabs, and you suddenly find that they're Europe's largest manufacturer and supplier of medical isolation tents. They already supply the NHS, they already supply the MOD, they know what they're doing, and well-renowned for it. They don't just supply in Europe, they supply all over the world. They were working with Ebola, they're still working in the NHS with other things, so just like, great. And I spoke with a guy there called Mark John, and he was just brilliant. So, yeah, this sounds like a no-brainer. How do we do it? And I think what was great is there was no talk of money. No talk of money. It's made me like, right, okay, what do we need to do? You send me the designs. We'll get this mocked up. This needs to get out there. We need to help people. So we had one of their team who was great. Their designer. So they're a small UK-based company down in Wales, and we had the prototype made by the end of Tuesday.
Amazing.
So we're 4 days in, yeah. Wednesday, it was being tested on multiple clinical staff, so not on patient, multiple clinical staff throughout Wednesday and Thursday in the Royal Orthopaedic Hospital in Birmingham by EJ, because that's the most difficult part. It was that intubation bit we recognise is the most difficult part.
Yeah.
Lots of really good feedback. We launched by the end of Thursday, soft launch. So it was 6 days, and before we'd hit the full 7 days, I think it was 6 minutes to 6 on the Friday, so an hour and whatever before, hour and 16 minutes, hour and 14 minutes before the 7 days, we'd taken our first bulk order from abroad. So 6 days for issue to medical product to market, including pretty much full due diligence, and this is a team of people that are used to working in medtech, was pretty astounding. We went global, truly global, by day 13, because the following Thursday I received calls, order inquiries from one of the states in the US, and over the following few days we added in Vietnam, Singapore, Australia, another state in the US, and more are coming in. We held off with those actually because there were a few things, but our main cause was this wasn't about making money. This was about saving our friends and family in the NHS. This makes sense to us. It's been difficult for us to get through the system, which has been interesting. because this is a team that understand what they're doing. They understand the system really well, and they know what makes a project. And what was really important to me is that when we were looking at our team, any one person on our team is a reasonable person to have in court as an expert witness in their area. And that's really important. And a big concern for us is with this wider call for PPE, where people are making all the stuff at home, and it's great that they're doing it and getting stuck in. And other companies are coming in from outside the medical sphere, and in a lot of cases it's great. You do see some, unfortunately, that are clearly trying to just to make a huge profit. You can tell that. Everyone on this watching this will know. They're the ones that are saying, buy this amount for this and buy this amount with a 30 or 40% discount. I can't do a 4% discount. I'm not against companies paying for their time. I think that's quite right. But I think you should check your own. You should check your own morals if you're really trying to make a big markup. But our concern with all of those is these are organisations and people who do not understand the requirements in medtech, and the guidance out there was yes for help, but for the clinicians going in, if you've got the wrong sort of plastics on their visors, what's that going to mean? Are people going to get cut? Are they going to get blinded? Are the masks actually going to do what they're meant to do? Yeah. Are the plastics going to have contaminants on them? All these sort of things, the normal standards that we would expect and in peacetime we'd be happy with, but we can't do. So we did do that. We got the best people in the world, best manufacturer in the world to make it and distribute it, and well, not so much distribute, but to make it and build it and do it to the right standards. And then we got we were trying to work out how we get the shipping done, and Legentia, another UK company, said, great, this is a great UK project trying to solve this issue. Let's do this. So Legentia jumped in and became partners to help us get stuff distributed as soon as possible. And that meant that within a few weeks we had hundreds of products being used across the NHS. But we didn't stop there. We see it's very important to make sure that everyone's happy, everyone's safe. Despite the safety risk being very, 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 very low of something going wrong with this, every single product is individually numbered. It's to be individually identified. It's individually quality assessed, as you'd expect of anything going to the medical market, by a trained person in that. And then we are getting post-market surveillance. We're doing continuing post-market surveillance. But of course, what that also did for us, as well as giving the opportunity to say, oh, we need to stop now, which we haven't, is it meant we started to get the feedback that we really wanted, which is, wow, this is good. Now, in that really difficult area with anaesthetists, and where actually it is really about them as a consultant. I'm in charge of what's happening right now, doing this intubation and extubation. So what I say goes, as it should be. We have a less than 10% negative feedback. All the others have, there may be some, oh, it'd be nice if you could do this. But otherwise, it starts with, this is great. The less than 10%, and those included complicated cases. The less than 10% did include some complicated cases. It also included some people who perhaps had not had time to properly study the instructions, which are very simple, but this is a rushed time, right? I mean, I'm not going to judge them. So we took that on board, so we changed our instructions immediately. We've got to make this clearer, and we've done some color coding on the device. And then there's a really tiny percentage, and we've had enough people to make it a really small percentage. It's in the single figures, obviously, have said it doesn't fit my MO. Well, it's fine. But my response in the team, we just looked at this and go, having reviewed 300 medical devices and all these other projects, in that scenario, in that area, with really high skilled clinicians who are really skilled at doing one particular thing to have such a low amount say it doesn't fit my MO. Wow. Yeah. And on top of that, they still completed the procedure they were doing. So they didn't say, and that was what I was really worried about. Are they going to say, no, it got in the way, I had to get rid of it, I had to stop it? No, they didn't say that. It was some really basic things that we have then been able to go, great, the next run, we've made those adjustments. We've made it clearer. So it's been really exciting. There's lots of things coming out, as hence my blur at you, as you've just seen. I've talked about it a lot. We've had a lot of great coverage. We were in GQ magazine. My wife was more impressed that our dog was in GQ magazine than I was. My assistant's dog. But it is a case of people in this sector just saying, this is outstanding. Really, it's a really simple project. Why hasn't someone thought of it before? Well, I'm a simple guy, it's fine. But what is this a world record for medical product into mass market, things like that? And it's like maybe, but there's stuff going on. So that is that. We wanted a way to get it out there as soon as possible to as many people. We've got people asking for it. It's about £40 per unit in cost delivered. So a friend of mine jumped in and said, look, I'm setting you up a GoFundMe. That GoFundMe over the sort of first week and a bit has raised £34,000. So that's nearly 1,000 units, sorry. So that's great. We want to get more, obviously. We've got more people looking at buying, so we're still raising that GoFundMe. And it's given us time to start thinking, okay, long term, do you know what? There's a product here. Staff are worried. This is a significant barrier for them. We know that we've known that the aerosol-borne contagion is a problem for a long time. The WHO has been speaking about it for years. Bill Gates has been speaking about it for years. In the medical world, we've known it for years, but actually we've had 4 in the last 9 years. This is different, and there's a step up, but each one has kind of been a step up. So we're going to be left with, internationally, rightly so, traumatized staff, very panicked staff, very worried staff. Is this a potential aerosol contagion? How do I protect myself? So here's a product now that we can roll out long term. We can help solve that. We can get it out to, I'd really love to be getting it out to refugee camps, where I'm very concerned, closed, confined spaces, poor access to medical care. Yeah. What's going to happen there? The team's still working for free. We are fewer in number now because everyone obviously was also working full time. Most of the time it's Richard and I, and obviously the 2 medics, my wife Lydia, and who is a primary care specialist and end-of-life care specialist for both paediatrics and old age, and EJ De Silva as secondary care. And that's what we got to. It's great that we've got interest. We've got people. We've got VCs looking at us. We know that. We've got 2 very advanced versions in the wings, which we will do all the extra work on that we want to. There'll be medical devices, and they're very, very cool. We're very excited about that. We were invited to speak with the West Midlands Academic Health Science Network funding panel yesterday, and hopefully it went well. We're waiting to see, but they rushed that forward for us. They brought it forward by several weeks just to speak to us as soon as possible. They were very keen. I think one of the things we were so pleased about, Richard and I and a few of the others, is in order to do that, we got a brochure together. And it gave us the excuse to park a few other things and just concentrate on what have we done so far and bring it together in the 3 weeks. I've shown it to quite a few people because obviously we're a bit tired drunk, and we were so excited when we saw it. We had designers jump in and help us, and the friend Jenna, who's just set up her organisation called Mixology Comms. And I'll share a link to you to them as well, because they've been brilliant. She brought in a a friend who's an illustrator and designer, and he helped set it up. This brochure just looks like 2 years to 3 years work. Is what you expect of a 2 to 3 year project of getting a technology into the Western medical sphere. It's multiple pages long. It's got tens of letters of support from lots of different levels of clinician. It's got 2 pre-published papers from a high standard clinician. It's got 3 more papers about to be put into it. Some comparative studies, and then it's got all the technical requirements and showing that we meet them. It's slightly ridiculous to have done that much work in such a short time, but it is certainly very exciting. Yeah. So I will shut up. It's been a very long time glaring at you, but yeah.
No, it's unbelievable. You're sort of the Craig David of medical devices, getting that business sort of turned around in 7 days. It's incredible. If it's all right with you, I'd love to put a link to your GoFundMe page.
I'd love it. Thank you.
As I think everyone would agree, protecting anyone, whoever they may be, whatever they're doing, but especially our frontline is pretty crucial right now. So thank you to you and all the hard work on there. There's a few things also I'd be keen to know, and I think this audience would be keen to sort of know about as well. Your communications background, right? How important is communication right now?
So I go with the old adage, communication is key, or communication is king. I try and avoid the king, but communication is key. And I know we all recognize that, but what does that look like? The stuff I do on boards, if it's anything to do with a new project, most of my work tends to be around when I come into boards, it's because they're starting to look at rollouts of new technologies or the reviewing new technology, and we'll get in that early. And I'll come in at any point, either as a board member or as an external. But the earlier I come in, the better, because what it comes down to is what was developed through those 300 devices at NICE. And that is what I call 1.1. And it's a 3 to 5 line statement of the problem and the solution that can be understood by anyone. So as we sort of say, 12 years and up. Especially, I tend to say a 12-year-old girl, because 12-year-old boys, anything like me, I couldn't concentrate for more than 5 seconds anyway. But 12-year-old girls tend to be able to hold a decent conversation about it, and we'll pry a bit more. The important thing about that is if you clearly state what it is you're doing, and I really don't hold people say, oh, it's too complicated. I don't hold for it. And I'll clarify why in a second. Even if there's a couple of terms in there people have to look up, that's fine. But you set that right at the beginning. This is our statement of intent. This is our problem and our mission and this sort of thing. Great. And you keep those words the same the whole way. If you think you have to change them, think really, really hard about that. The reason being is that if a product rollout starts with a CTO saying, actually, we need to redo all the systems, they're all about to fall over in the next 2 years. Okay, fine. Tell me what that solution is, and then I want to know that you're going to use the same overview to all of your downline, and that I can use it to the rest of the staff in the organization. That you're not going to change it when you go to the executive board, that it's going to remain exactly the same. Here's our 1.1. And then the non-executive board are going to be able to get it as well. And then when we talk about it outside to customers, stakeholders, whoever, again, the same 3 to 5 lines. Because if you don't do that, if you change it because you're changing it for the market, at some point, all of those people are going to be around the same table. And that will stop you. Because they'll all say, well, that's not what I understood was going on. It also means that if you can clarify it that simply and quickly, it proves to me you're not trying to hide something in some way. And you may not be doing it nefariously, but there is they're not really going to get that, so I'll just repackage it like this. You don't know what they're going to get. You don't know what they're going to get. And if they want to ask more, you've got everything after 1.1. You can go to 99.999 to explain it all. but get that key message across. And the really important thing about that for doing projects in technology is speed. And that's what we did here. So when speaking with EJ right at the beginning, I clarified his issue in a very short statement. And that informed me, and he confirmed it. He was able to confirm it. And that informed me of everything that I needed to know. And I kept that as a blueprint in my mind to design the AerosolShield. It also meant that when I was calling my poor friend Richard at such a late time at night, and they've got a little baby, you know, and then already he totally got what I was saying very quickly as well. And it meant that the next morning, when we set up that team, I didn't have to spend 4 hours convincing them. They all got it really quickly. And everyone along that line has been able to pick it up from that short statement. This is an aerosol barrier. It's a miniature isolation tent to significantly reduce the spread of contaminated aerosol to NHS staff. Very, very clear.
And was that process you just deep diving on understanding what the issue really is and what the product really is, and was the majority of time spent on that analysis to get to that point of communication?
So I think in this situation, obviously we had that initial conversation, and I have a good understanding of the market, and I have a good understanding of some parts of the medical sector. It was more that I found a way very quickly to confirm with the person bringing me the problem what the issue was. So that's about the comms. That's the comms piece, is you confirm it very quickly. You don't get bogged down in bits that aren't going to help you at that point to confirm the mission statement. That mission statement then informs what you need to know. What science do I need behind this? That's fine. But does that answer your question? It's really about doing it as quickly as possible and finding, and we can do this in any meeting, and that's really important. We've all been called to meetings that should have been emails and seen emails that should have been a text or none of the above. And the 1.1 will help you, because you could start with a 1.1 for everyone. If you say, when we're coming to meetings, if we're doing ad hoc meetings, great, everyone does a 1.1, because then I'll know if I'm going to be actually needed in that. If you want me in that and I don't think that's fine, but I can get an idea from the 1.1 and we can really get involved, because I don't have to spend the time that you're talking to me thinking about what is this bigger picture. I don't quite get it.
Yeah.
So that's where it ties across. And to pick up what I said about when people say, and I have had pushback, people say, you can't do that, it's impossible, I deal with really technical things. Well, go onto YouTube and look up complex problems described by experts in 5 levels. And it's brilliant. And you'll find quantum computing described by experts at post-PhD, pre-PhD, teen, all the way down to, I think it's like age 3. And they're great, and it's a great way that you start. You go, well, I'd like to know about that, and I can't know about that, so I'll start at the basic, and they build it up, and that shows someone who knows what they're talking about.
Yeah, and in these times, from an engagement point of view, just speaking of some of the business leaders who are listening into these conversations, what should the communication channels be? Should they be directed to just direct management, and they feed down messages, or do you see a top-down approach when it comes to communication?
As a non-executive, obviously you have a very clearly defined role, and you don't want to be stepping up, so that's fine. But there was, when I worked at the Daily Telegraph, one of the things, and as a very green-faced youngster, one of the things they did in between your interview rounds was, I think it was sort of second or third interview, or the last one. At the end of it, they gave you a printout of all the senior managers and the board, their faces and their names. And at the next interview, they suddenly pulled up a face, and you didn't know they were going to say, "Who's that?" And the reasoning behind that was not so much a decision maker; it was kind of a bit of a learning tool. You don't know who you're going to be standing in the lift next to. And whilst it's good for the board may think, oh yeah, but it's helpful if I hear them, saying what's going wrong. Yeah, but it's not very nice on them if they realise afterwards who you are. That's a real stressor. And actually, if they know who you are and they see you as an open person and they think there is something you need to know and they can come up to you, fine. It doesn't happen rarely. It happens rarely, but it does happen for me. But when I arrive on boards, I set communication channels very quickly. I make it a priority for myself. If it's a NED role, if it's a chair role, it's across the wider board. And before we start, if we're bringing in members, then I'll make sure that I've spoken to them a couple of times before the first board, get some good feedback, and just get the idea of how we're going to work together, and that they understand. Make sure they have my numbers and make sure they can get in touch. But when I arrive to a board, the first thing I say to the chair is, are you doing board champions? So our individual non-execs looking after specific areas that they're really interested in. If not, can I do that? Because it's really helpful, and we'll go into why. And if so, great. So who can I go to? So then I go and do that, and then I arrange time with over the first 6 months. I arrange time with those directors and say this, and we just until I'm aware, and I try and pop into the office more than you'd normally expect from until I really feel like I will get directors just texting me and say, could I run something past you? I want to send this through. What do you think about this? Or where do we think this is going? And that's just really helpful, as the whole critical friend approach is really important. And if you do that from NED role, then what are you showing to everyone else? Open. That's how we create a way that we can positively comment and criticize and be open about our ideas. And therefore it's how we grow. It's really important. I mean, it's really basic stuff. It's stuff we know, but it's stuff we often forget about. Yeah.
And your sporting background is fabulous. Like, I love it. It's very cool. What are your biggest learns from the crossover from sports to business?
Well, obviously there's my wife has pointed out there's a bit of irony that an ex-swordsman has developed a shield. So I hadn't really thought about that, but it was day 4 of doing this, I was starting to fall over, which for a guy who's already in a wheelchair is also quite impressive. But I was really feeling it. And I suddenly thought, I knew this was going to be, although fast, this was going to be many, many days. I was thinking at least 2 weeks. I didn't realize it was going to keep going, but that was fine. I thought, oh God, how am I going to do this? I suddenly realized, oh, hang on. Not only am I an athlete, but actually I was expecting to do 2 more major internationals before the Paris this year. I've now retired. I've had to retire. I can't stay on beyond September. I promised my young son and my wife that I would retire, so I'm very gutted to not be able to chase that. But having not done those competitions, I had all my nutritional supplements for competitions ready and waiting, all my hydration gels, all my essentially everything that I have ready to ensure that doesn't happen in a competition over a multi-day event.
Yeah.
So that's what we did. So I just said to myself, what am I always telling people? What do I know? And I talk about this when doing mentoring and when doing lecturing on performance. We don't talk about hydration enough. And this is a hydration tablet inside it, because you don't have to be doing those things all the time, but I have a load. So the science in sport ones are the ones that most Team GB use, and I still use those. But we don't talk about it enough. And actually, the science around it is quite shocking. If you have, I've got the figures down somewhere, but if you have a 2.5 to 5% rate of dehydration, you won't really notice it. You can lose up to 25% of your concentration. So that's a really, really huge effect for a very small amount. And we feel it in different ways. In tiredness, we just feel a bit distracted. And then it's about understanding what your nutrition is. So if you're hitting the caffeine hard and then you're hitting the sugars, you're going to have ups and downs. So it's like, okay, what do I need right now? I know I've got fast pace of going, so I'm going to have some carbs, but try and keep it gentle and long, and I need to get lots of vitamins in because there's lots of illness going around. So I need to make sure that I'm on top of that. I've got to have just protein, and I'll have some sugar when I want it, and that's fine, but I'll moderate that. So it's being kind to yourself whilst at the same time being really realistic about what your body needs. I need my brain to be totally on top of this. We have built a company in days, between essentially two people, one person working well over full time, one person working well over full time on multiple projects, and then some clinicians coming in. It's all that thing. So we've had to really keep things going in our heads, and then have built up a team and being able to pass that on. So concentrating on nutrition and hydration is really, really key. And when you focus on the failures and the mistakes, do it positively.
Right.
In fencing, my main weapon was saber. It was first to 15, and they would say, on guard, ready, fence. We would usually have finished the point with this. As soon as they start saying fence, you can start. We would usually have finished the point before they finished saying the word fence. And that can include multiple moves. If you don't believe me, Google wheelchair fencing saber, men's category A, and look at the Paralympics there.
Amazing.
The tip of my blade at my peak was, I think we measured it at 220 feet per second, so that's over 200 miles an hour.
Wow.
We do 2 or 3 moves in under half a second. Some people say you can't react that fast. Actually, it's just training. It's repetition. It's that 6,000 repetitions, something your muscles get to do it. When that stops, I've only got a couple of seconds until the next one goes. If I'm annoyed because I didn't do what I meant to do, or I got hit, or whatever, if I spend any time reacting negatively to that, I've probably lost the next 2, 3, 4 hits. And I say that from the experience of exactly that. If I control that and go, right, okay, what happened? That happened. Or that happened, I don't know. Okay, I'm going to have to reevaluate that then. And I'll have to put that aside, or I can try something again. But I've got to change. So what happened? Is it something I have to deal with now? Yes or no? If yes, okay, fine, that route. If no, out. I'll deal with that later. I'll deal with that emotion later. I'll deal with that regret later. And that, again, I'm sure everyone who does watch it will totally get that, and that enables us to. It doesn't mean I've ignored it. It's quite the opposite. It means I'm going, right, thank you, I want that information. And that comes back to our post-market surveillance. I don't think anyone else out there is doing any post-market surveillance and stuff that they're rushing out for the COVID response. It's really important to us. Really important to us. I want to know. I want to know what's wrong with it. I want to know why it doesn't quite work for you, because I want to make it better, and I want to do that as soon as possible. So that's my drive, and I think, again, that's about being open with the whole team. That's about the whole team knowing that they can text at any time, day or night, and we're going to respond. The manufacturers were saying, they were laughing the other day because I didn't speak to them for 1 day. So that's the first day in the entire time since we've known you. We haven't actually spoken, where everyone was just happy. It was just like, yeah, isn't that great? So, and yet they also have said what's amazing is every time we've texted or tried to call you, you've called us back as, on that, if I've been on another call. So that's really important. So it comes back to that communication. So it's communication with others, communication with yourself. What's really important. Perhaps it's easier in this one. We've got a really important mission statement.
Yeah, and I think you can see in that kind of intensive project that sports psychology, that sports mindset is everything here. I think it's gonna be interesting how you balance it out though at the pace you're operating, right? How you manage to step back with such an important sort of mission ahead.
That is what has been keeping me awake. Less so now. Now that we've got that. But it was the classic, oh, have I done that? oh, I need to remember to do that. But you're already exhausted, you're already in bed, and it's already, everyone else is asleep, and it is difficult it's a bit more difficult to be a bit sneaky when you've got a spinal injury. But it was that case of, a few days in, it was that case of, there's no point in me saying, I'll remember that in the morning, because I can't take that risk.
Yeah.
So as soon as I remember, okay, I have to deal with that now. That was the major stress. I continued to build the team using people I knew and others I don't know. And as we started to get the external validation, that really helped, because I pushed them. I didn't just want validation for validation's sake. Great, you're doing something for COVID. Yeah, thank you. But what do you think of this? So my mum, bless her, struggled with some of it. She's just turned 80 and obviously trying to get these over family WhatsApp groups and what's going on. She's saying, well, some of her friends don't understand it. They don't see what's a good idea, don't understand. I said, great, tell me, what is it they're saying? What are they saying? Why don't they understand? What's the message? And actually, it turns out, okay, fine. So that's what they're picking up from the message. Great, okay, that's fine. So that's really important to me, that even though they've got nothing to do with the clinical sphere, because in the clinical world, they're under stress. And when you're under stress, you're tired and things, you're not going to see things right. And on that hydration point for clinicians at the moment, and this is really important. So 2 to 5% dehydration, you lose around 25% of your concentration. PPE shortage. If you are wearing PPE because you're in a contaminated area, you put it on just in an isolation suite. You go in. When you leave that ward, that room, you come out to the isolation suite, you doff it. It's called donning and doffing, like the old hats. Donning and doffing PPE. They didn't have enough, is what is being reported, and that's what they're saying. I have no reason not to believe them. A lot of friends in that situation. We don't have enough, Matt. Right, well, how are you managing? I'm not drinking. I can't drink. I can't have a break. If I drink, I'll need the loo. Right, but you're wearing loads of plastic. It's really hot and sweaty. Yeah, I know, but I've got to do this. And there was a final part for us with the whole journey, actually, which I didn't talk about. I said that Lydia is a end-of-life care specialist. And she and EJ, interestingly, both came to me about 3 days before it was announced that they wanted to improve end-of-life. We'd had all these horrible, heartbreaking stories. All ages. And the next of kin couldn't be there. And sometimes the next of kin weren't able to even Skype in or whatever. And everyone can understand that.
Yeah.
And I think we were all independently thinking this is awful. It's absolutely awful. But this shield that this patient's under, it significantly reduces contamination. And here's an option, end-of-life care, that we can enable people to be closer, to physically touch maybe, whatever, but they'll be in PPE. We're not replacing PPE, but this significantly reduces the risk. And dying well is really important for the person who's dying, but for everyone else around them. Anyone who's been anywhere near someone who's died at that time, it's really important. So, yeah. Yeah.
I think when I was speaking to my wife, Ellie, about this, and that end care of life piece, and the fact that there are only real 2 journeys at the moment in hospital, where you either come in and you come out, or you don't come out, and that's it. And that piece really resonated with us, and that's why we, the Growth Show and Eximius, just thought this would be so good to fast track this interview, so we can just get it out there. And I've got a wonderful network of people who can probably help, add some value, and contribute to the mission you're on. And as long as you're staying hydrated, I'll feel better. There's so many other points I'd love to catch up with you on another time. I know you've got.
I splurged at you for too long in the beginning. I do apologise. Yeah.
No. It's great. It's great. It's been wonderful. I think some of the points around. Anyone knows me around hydration. I am terrible. And I think the fact you've now surrounded yourself with a team of people who can allow you to take a break, right? Who probably are on your case to say, just chill. I know my management team are wonderful in that way. But look, I'm going to let you crack on. Thank you so much for your time today. If you can send me a link, I'd love to get a link out there for the GoFundMe page.
Yeah,
and best of luck to all you and the team on an incredible mission. It's truly inspiring. But wonderful catching up, and we'll catch up soon.
Thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. And anyone who's made it this far, well done.
Yeah. Well, see you soon. Take care.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Bye.